All praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Hawakakodash, double honors to our apostles and elders here at Great Millstone. Yeah, Elder Apostle Tahar did a lesson stating this is why we at Great Millstone don't have unity camps. And you have this Christian who is actually putting Sakari Ahlazar, the head, on the spot and pointing out his hypocrisy and pointing out how he's stumbling with his answers. The scripture says, let your yea be yea, your nay be nay. This is him and his deacon are actually perfect examples in the scriptures why it says to follow order. We have plenty of examples that we've seen, guys who become headstrong, which I'm going to read what that means. It basically just means self-willed, headstrong, presumptuous. And we've seen that does not have a good outcome. None of them have actual good outcome. There's no self-willed, presumptuous individual out there who believes in, himself. He doesn't have to follow the order. He rebukes all of his elders. He doesn't have any elders, actually. He shows respect for persons. He's fellowshipping with the non-believers, becoming one with the non-believers. In fact, having more respect to the non-believers over the believers. Everything the scriptures talk about not to do. And most of it came from Paul as well. Basically keeping the order in the church. Those two are a good example. And like I said, we've seen it time and time again, even with guys that leave Great Millstone. It doesn't turn out good. But with those two in particular is a good example as of why it is best to follow the order to the best of your ability. Because sure, when you're young, when you're hot-headed, when you think the Lord is dealing with you, when you're going off that young man spirit, the Lord is dealing with the young lions, and it's our time now. And you start to change this, you change that. You having fellowships with the non-believers. You're getting put on podcasts. They got cameras in front of you. You think you're making moves. You're making money. Sure, all that looks good, right? But the scriptures talk about how there's a sinner that have much success. But what happens in the end? That's why King Solomon said, oh, would they consider the latter end? Nobody considers the latter end, because what's in front of you now is good. What's in front of you now is what you perceive to be prosperity, and you worry about the cares and the worries that come with it and the consequences. You put that on the back burner. But it always comes right back to you. Look at all the celebrities in the world today. P. Diddy, as an example, right? Kevin Hart, Steve Harvey, Ricky Smiley, all these people, they during their prime years, Martin Lawrence, it was all good. But now we're at the end, right? Everything they've done to achieve that, do they get respect for that now? No, they're losing respect for it. But you know who's getting the respect? The ones who chose to take the low route and did not go that route and decided to suffer and instead do things the right way. In the long run, you see that the race is not, to the swift. It's slow and steady wins the race. It's consistency, it's obedience, and willing to follow the order of the scripture, right? Now, Ahlazar is looking bad, him and his deacon. So these guys try to be so-called scholarly and educated. They boasting that we educated over here. But did not the scripture says that the Lord made the wisdom of this world foolishness? You're so deep into what Esau, Edom, and his commentaries and what he views things. You're so deep into him that you forgot that the wisdom of this world is foolishness. So now, since you take hold to what Esau is saying in the name of being a rebel, the very name Sakari itself shows you that whole spirit is off. The Sakari was known as Daggermen. They were rebels against the Roman authority, and they even betrayed their own people, and they killed their own people. They basically openly opposed the will of Yahushua. The will of Yahushua to them is weak. The will of Yahushua is to be as wise as serpent, harmless as doves. to go out and teach and let the Lord protect you. To them, that's weak. So they'll go out with weapons because they don't feel secure without it. That young, presumptuous, we're going to do what we want spirit. Yeah, you had your run, but now you're at your end. So now this guy, a Christian, has you on the ropes and is calling him out for his hypocrisy because he blatantly says he does not find Paul's writers to be authoritative because he's reading too much Esau, right? And because he's a rebel, he doesn't like order. Everything Paul says not to do, he wants to do. Why? Because they're just children. And this is what happens when you're left to your own devices, thinking you're doing something, but in the long end, you basically end up destroying yourself. As I read, I posted in a comment, Sirach 1:29 says, "Be not an hypocrite in the sight of men, and take good heed what thou speakest. Exalt not thyself, lest thou fall, and bring dishonor upon thy soul. And so Yahweh discover thy secrets, and cast thee down in the midst of the congregation, because thou camest not in truth to fear of the Lord, but thy heart is full of deceit." So when you're a hypocrite and you're stumbling over your words and you're tossed to and fro with the wind, because you want to talk about Paul this, but you're quick to run to Romans 9, when the heathen comes up talking about salvation for all nations, you run to Romans 9 quick. When a woman comes up, you quick to run to 1 Corinthians 11 to talk about the order. Quickly. But then you say you don't listen to him. That's being a hypocrite. You picking and choosing when you want to establish scripture as scripture. You're not grounded and settled. You can be easily overthrown. This is Sirach 30:8. "And horse not broken becometh headstrong, and the child left to himself will be willful." The word headstrong means self-willed, abstinent. Meaning self-willed is just that. I'm going to do what I want. You can't tell me nothing. Ahlazar in particular has denounced all of his elders that he had, beginning with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. He denounced them. He even denounced the head over HODC, Barak, the elder Barak, because he also rebuked him. Once he did that, as a father, as he should, even though he don't even teach the correct doctrine 100%, even he called out, BS when it was BS, and as a father, he rebuked them. And how did this Ahlazar react? Like a big kid, and said, "Well, you ain't my elder no more. We gonna do our own thing. We're gonna start a university," so to speak. And just like the brother said in the comments, when their equipment allegedly got stolen, they used Paul's writings to justify setting up a GoFundMe that was set up for what, $6,000, but when you look at it, they accumulated like $100,000. And that's gonna raise questions, by the way. You basically just pulled a brick lady. Brick lady as in, well, let me say this. I shouldn't say that, because the brick lady was proven to be a liar. Whatever happened with your equipment being stolen, whether that actually happened or not, that's soon to be found out, whether it's true or not. But let's just say it did happen. $6,000, y'all got that. You got that. That's why it's so fishy. You got that. 6 G's. And do you really need that much equipment to start a camera and go in the spirit? That's why it raises all kind of questions, because you was able to use a camera to record the video saying your stuff got stolen, but you can't use that to teach the word. That raises questions. But let's just say it did happen. $6,000 that I know that you guys have. I guess you just didn't want to do it, pay y'all your own money. Set up a GoFundMe and you make almost $100,000. Now, a sincere man will stop it when you get that close. You let it keep going. That raises all kind of questions, man. It's the beginning of the end for these guys. They're being exposed because what we just read. When you're a hypocrite in the sight of man, the Most High is gonna bring you down in the midst of the congregation. He's gonna expose you. That's why it says, "Take good heed to what thou speakest." You have to make sure you examine the things you say and the things you do. The Lord does not like a hypocrite. Okay? Because you're quick to run to Paul's letters when it's convenient for you to break down the scripture, to break down a point. That's being a hypocrite. The man asks you, do you accept Luke? Well, basically you're saying we can go to Luke, but when I find it necessary to dismiss Luke, I'm going to dismiss Luke because you've been diving into Esau Edom's books and you call yourself a scholar, but you made yourself a fool. Him and his deacon, they try to sound so smart. It's an example of two kids trying to sound so smart, but they sound so dumb. The scriptures talk about the simplicity in Yahushua. You guys are carnal. You don't understand the spiritual. And that is why you're being cast down in the congregation. And it's just only going to go downhill from here. The book of Sirach 5, verse 10 says, be steadfast in thy understanding. The word steadfast means loyal. Okay. Be steadfast in thy understanding, meaning, you're grounded. The scripture talk about being fully grounded and settled. Oh, wait, that's Paul speaking again. I guess he doesn't know what he's talking about, but scripture talk about being fully grounded and settled. Okay. It says, be steadfast in thy understanding and let thy word be the same. Because when you don't, you know what happens? You become a hypocrite. Okay. In one video, you said Paul is the author of confusion. Well, if that's the case, you shouldn't read from him at all. But in an instant, you'll run to Romans 9. You'll run to the book of Romans. You'll run to the book of 1 Corinthians. And then it's like, wait, what? So then even the non-believers, the Christians, they put you on the ropes now. Now they're making mockery of you. Now they're making videos debunking you. And he's not the first one either. You see what happens when you're a hypocrite? You see how the Lord can cast you down in the midst of congregation? But you see, they can't come to GMS with that because our stance is sure, firm, and steady. We're steadfast in our understanding. But when you all over the place, we do this, we don't, but we don't, we do this, we accept it, but it ain't, but. Now you've been found out that you're a liar, right? And that's why the scripture says, because that's the whole point. This is an example as of why the book of 1 Timothy chapter 3 says, verse 1, it says, this is a true saying, if a man desire the office of a bishop, he desireth a good work, which the office of a bishop is a position over the church. It's a ranking. It says a bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach. Why does it say a husband of one wife? Because you have a lot on your plate, and having more than one woman leads to more distractions, and you have to be concerned about the church primarily. So you're better to have none or one. Okay. It says, but as you can see, the criteria: blameless, husband of one wife, vigilant, sober, of good behavior, given to hospitality, apt to teach. Not given to wine, no striker, not greedy of filthy lucre. That's a big one, because you find yourself in a position where you have access to a lot of money. So when you take these high positions, calling yourself the chief high priest, and you understand that your position, you have access to this money, you have to be careful because people can ask the questions. If that was $6,000 worth of equipment and you raised $100,000, what's going on here? That's suspicious. See? It says, but patient, not brawler, not covetous. One that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. For if a man not know how to rule his own house, how shall he take care of the church of Yahweh? Here's the point. Not a novice, lest being lifted up with pride, he fall into the condemnation of the devil. You cannot be a novice when you take these positions, because you'll be lifted up with pride and you fall into the condemnation of the devil. And the scriptures tell you pride is the beginning, is when one departed from the Lord. Paul was anointed by Yahushua to go and say what he say and do what he do. If you're a child and who hasn't grown and matured and you are abstinent, like we just read, obstinate, which means you resist. When you're self-willed, that means you can't be ruled over. You don't take well to orders. You're unruly. That's literally what unruly means. Okay, you're willing to go against rules. Presumptuous, which is really, again, self-willed. That's when you're like that, you're going to go against order. Okay, and you're gonna fall into the condemnation of the devil. That's what pride is. Pride is saying, no, I'm right. And who is this guy? Why I gotta listen to him? He ain't the Torah. So if I want to wear a hat while I'm teaching, I'm gonna do that. And if I want to fellowship with the unbelievers, then I don't have to listen to 1 Corinthians chapter 1. But when a woman comes up talking about order, you run to 1 Corinthians chapter 11. That's a hypocrite. And where's the fruit of the unity camps? To this day, there's no fruit of the unity camps, because guess what? Sakari and HOI has been fellowshipping for a long time. HOI still teaches that the mark of the beast is spiritual, and Sakari still teaches that the mark of the beast is the chip. I believe Sakari teaches that Cornelius is an Israelite, but HOI is still to be determined if they teach that Cornelius is still a heathen. So where's the unity camp? You know, to this day, all this fellowshipping, you guys still aren't on one accord. So that's proof that that's just trash, man. You know, and even then they had, well, when I say trash, I mean, it's proven not to be worthwhile. It's being self-willed. It's doing what you want to do. And it's best to just do what the order tells you. But when you are resistant to order, when you're unruly, if it goes against what you want to do, you're going to find an excuse to do it. You're going to justify yourself in doing it. And as you can see, this is what they come up with. I don't have to listen to him. Who's Paul? He just a man. Sirach 37. Is it 37? Okay. Sirach 32:17. A sinful man will not be reproved. Because why? Because he's headstrong. But findeth an excuse according to his will. So he's going to justify himself and what he wants to do. Meaning you can't reprove him. Meaning eventually you just have to step back and just let the Lord do what he got to step in. Proverbs 29:1. He that being often reproved, headstrong, hardeneth his neck, shall suddenly be destroyed, and that without remedy. So eventually you get to the point where you're just no more talking. You just got to let the Lord take care of him. And this is the beginning of his downfall. He's looking like a fool and a hypocrite in the sight of Christians. See, that's why you can't be a hypocrite in this thing. The scriptures talk about being carried about with every wind. You're just all over the place. You know, when people say, oh, he's like the wind, one moment he's this, the next day you don't know what kind of mood he's in. That's the attitude with them. You can't be like that. One that we'll read from Luke all day to break down the scriptures, but when we want to, we'll accept it being scripture or not, that is worthwhile reading. Meaning, if it goes against what I want to do or my perspective, then we don't have to. But the next verse, I'll accept that. That's being a hypocrite. And it's not going to work. You have to stand sure. But like I said, them two are prime examples in this ministry that we have as a proof as of why you cannot be a novice, because you will be lifted up with pride and you fall into the condemnation of the devil, which means you are in the devil's hands now. So meaning you're going to fall. Okay. With that, I say shalom.